Welcome back to Collaboration Conversations. I'm your co host, Regina Partain Bergman. And as you know, Pearl Cox is my co host, and she's unable to be with us right now. So we have an amazing guest co host this morning. I am so excited to introduce you to our guest co host. I met her recently, and it was just one of those things where you felt you'd known this person your whole life. And I am so glad that she agreed to be guest co host today. So I'd like to introduce you to Amber Griffiths, who is with Maker of Legends. Welcome, Amber. How are you today?
I'm so good. Regina, it's so nice to see you again. Thank you so much for this opportunity. It's a thrill.
I am thrilled to have you here. Amber, would you tell a little bit about you and what you do and who's your ideal audience? And, why do you serve them? Why is it important to you?
Oh, because if I don't, I will just be so sad. That's really the bottom line, is what it comes down to. Um, I am the maker of legends. And that means I get to work with these amazing people who are creating something greater than themselves, who have a mission and a message to get out there that they will move heaven and earth and do all it takes to get that out there into the world. And so I get to work with those people through the framework of branding and their voices. I have just this firm belief that their voices must be heard. They absolutely get to be heard, every single one of them, individual, to go out there and make the world a better place. So I work specifically with speakers and coaches and business owners who perhaps are not quite sure if they're showing up 100% or feel like they are, but something's not quite clicking. And I help them become legend and become absolutely unforgettable.
I
That's what I get to
love
do.
that. I love that. That's awesome. Would you introduce our guest panelist for the day?
I would absolutely love to. So we have Kathleen O'Leary, and she's coming to us from, I want to say, Wisconsin. I'm almost certain of it. Yay! And I will allow her to introduce herself in just a moment. And our other panelist is Teri Kerr from the Unstuck Coaching, and she is coming to us from Victoria, Canada. I believe it's British Columbia. For me, it's Canada is all the attic, all the upstairs. So, but I know it's Victoria. So, Kathleen, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us what you do and who you serve and why you do that?
Okay, well, thank you. And thank you for inviting me and letting me be here with you, lovely women, and all of the people that are watching and listening. I am Kathleen O'Leary. I do have my new consulting firm, which is K O'Leary LLC. Not a whole, all too innovative, but after 25 years of being in the Milwaukee market and leading the most storied institution in the state of Wisconsin, which is the Wisconsin State Fair Park. I really felt that after my retirement in October, I was the CEO for 6 years and I had 25 years overall. So I played a lot of parts, wore a lot of hats, took on a lot of responsibilities, primarily cut my teeth in my wheelhouse and love of marketing, communications, guest services, you name it. Ultimately, then chief of operations. And then in 16, was appointed to as CEO. And we had a board that was appointed by the governor of Wisconsin because we are the largest, the Wisconsin State Fair is the largest event in the state of Wisconsin with over 1 million visitors for those 11 days, as well as 145, 48 plus events over the course of the year. So big job, very big bandwidth of experience. But I will tell you that for those 6 years, it was an interesting place to be as CEO. Loved it. Politics were intense, and we were a governmental entity. So the long and short is that I made my decision after the 25 years. It was a great decision. I had done a succession plan. I was able to pass a baton to a wickedly smart team of aging in young people, women, men, and happily also able to pass the baton to another woman because I was the first woman CEO at the Wisconsin State Fair. So I passed my baton to Sherry Black and thrilled about it. I made a promise to myself and my family that I would have the first summer. I have a 19-year-old, a 23-year-old, and a 34-year-old, and I never had summers with any of them. So that was my intent, my purpose. But along the lines, I obviously helped a lot of people along the way. Kathleen, will you reach out? Somebody could use your help on this and that. And then I just really felt that whole engaged aspect of work begin. So the day after the 2022 Wisconsin State Fair, I signed my first client. And basically, it's Kerr LLC. I am just happy to be able to help young CEOs in leadership development, strategy, solutions. I could have only wished that I had someone, not only for the 6 years as CEO, but even for my time there, because it was a lot of trying to figure a lot of things out on your own, and just to be able to have that guidance. So I am now happy to say that I have 4 clients, and they all are very, very different, and they're all a lot, but they are my clients, and my purpose is just to make them all be better, let them find their way, but have a net, right? Have that net and have that sounding board, and also be able to give some subtle direction on how to steer and lead, so that if the ship isn't right, you can right that ship. And we all know that the waters are usually uncharted.
I love it. I'm so glad you're able to join us today, Kathleen.
Thank you.
Teri, Miss Teri, Queen of the North, tell us who you are, what you do, who you serve.
Hey, everybody. I am battling a bit of a chest thing, so I keep going mute. But I am Teri Kerr. I am the Unstuck Duck. Often I'm unstuck. Sometimes I'm stuck. But hey, I help women get unstuck. So it's all about being where they are as well. I work with women, mostly women entrepreneurs, that want to play bigger. And sometimes it's just people that want to leave a career into the next phase of their life, or even just get into alignment of what it is that they really want. And when I say playing bigger, I'm talking about people that want to write the book, people that want to get on stage, people that want to have become a CEO, people that want to step down from a CEO so that they can also hang out with their children in the summer. Right? And it's really about finding that alignment of what it is that they really want for their life, and stepping into the experience they want to create in the world, like how they want to show up in the world. I'm a cancer survivor myself. When I went back to work after being sick, I realized that I'd been burning all candles, all different ways. And I wasn't really willing to do that anymore. And so that's why I decided to leave and start my own business and help other women to kind of get into that really stepping into what makes them sing, like, instead of doing everything for everybody else. So that's what I do. And I do that through one-on-one coaching, but I also have a mastermind group that I love and adore, and the sun shines out of them. And because sometimes it's hard being an entrepreneur, and it's lonely. So I set up a space for people to build it together. It's my Flying V, which everything in my ecosystem is foul language. And but I just wanted to try that for the first time live. So yes, I use duck references everywhere because there's something really special about them. Now I'm blushing. It's all good.
I love it. I think it went well. It landed.
It's the best foul language I've ever heard.
So yeah, my mastermind's called the Flying V. It's about lift and magic climb, and not having to be the front duck all the time. Sometimes you just need to draft on the energy of others. So, yeah.
Awesome. Wow. What a great start, ladies, for talking about collaboration. I mean, you mentioned it, Kathleen, in terms of the team that you turned the reins over to. Teri, your Flying V. I love that. Yeah, both just great examples of collaboration and how important it is. And you also talked about lonely at the top, and that's another reason that we really need to collaborate, isn't it? So,
I'll jump in on that one. There's no question about it. It's, to be able to have, it doesn't even have to be like minds, right? I'll use an example of a collaboration that was incredible during the pandemic. No one had that playbook, right? And we're in the hospitality entertainment industry. We're shutting every single thing down. We're canceling fairs that haven't been canceled, in the history, and for ours wasn't the first time in 75 years. So
Mm.
I created a team of there were 6 of us, 5 other state fair CEOs in
Nice.
Ohio, Kentucky, Minnesota, Iowa. It was awesome. And we met every 2 weeks. And it was honestly that solace. It got us through like, what were your last 2 weeks like? Because here's what our last 2 weeks like. And then we were innovative on ideas and what we could do. But I mean, that collaboration will always be entrenched to me in this way that we saw each other through by the arts and by just reaching out and leaning in and collaborating.
Yeah, that's actually where I started with working with women entrepreneurs. Because before, so I'm an executive coach by trade. I went and, to work with the C-suite. I wanted to help people that had been potentially lifted up to this position without having any background in being that person. Sometimes people get pushed through the ranks and end up being a manager when they're really great at sales, or, a CEO, and they haven't had any leadership experience up until that point. And I was really dedicated to helping women in the C-suite because it is a minority here. I mean, it's getting way better, but it's still lonely, right? It's lonely when you show up and you're surrounded by the suits, the men in suits. And so when COVID hit, I was a member of the eWomen Network, and I decided to start offering like time to rise calls. So every morning I would show up on Zoom. We were all learning how to use Zoom. Like, where did you look? How did you hold your face, and how did you set up your background, and whatever it is. And, I just said, you know what, everybody, I'm going to be here at 9:00 every morning. It's a reason to get up and put your makeup on or do your hair. Some reason to get up and look at your computer when you're feeling like overwhelmed. And it became a lifeline for many people. And it was just something that I did out of my heart because I wanted it, and selfishly, it gave me a reason to get up every morning, right? Put makeup on and do my hair. So it was, and having that community and that collaboration, the ideas that flowed out of that were phenomenal. Like some of the people, their businesses switched completely. Like I started working solely with women entrepreneurs after that, because I was like, here's a space that I can fit a niche there. Wasn't what I intended at all when I started. If anything, I was like, never been an entrepreneur before. So it was really learning as I went.
Wow. Amber, I see why you invited these two ladies.
I know, aren't they fabulous?
They are amazing.
I love it.
Perfect.
I think one of the things that I've noticed too is it's not just lonely at the top. It's lonely at every level. And Kathleen, to your point of it's not just like-minded, what I've noticed is I don't want to necessarily be with like-minded people because it becomes kind of an echo chamber. I want people to question me. I want to be able to get the best results possible because we've had an actual open, honest conversation about it. I want to hang out with similarly driven, similarly committed people who are value aligned. Even if we don't think the same, I want to make sure that I get to play with those people who are aligned with my values. We have very similar reasons that we're doing things. So I think that for me, that's even more important than we agree on this thing. Let's disagree and then come up with a better result. So
a solution,
yes.
or just a different lens, a different perspective, right? And it's always amazing to sit at a table and make it a point to sit at a table with someone that doesn't look like you, doesn't have the same skin color as you, doesn't maybe even come from the same background, just to get that sense of, wow, that's awesome to just hear another person's background, to hear what they took to get to wherever they are, if they're not even in a middle management, to hear the young people and what they're doing, or to sit with a very, a more seasoned, as we say, or more mature, and to be able to share our story. And I love it when you just see people like younger women in particular. I do have to say I have a number of women mentors, and I also have a number of men mentors, but I have a tendency to lean to mentor young women. And just to be able to share stories and have, if they even take away one little piece of what you say, you've made a difference. And I know that when I take away something from some what somebody says, it's like, all right, I'm a little fuller. My heart's a little fuller. I have another new way of looking at things, and it's pretty awesome.
I used to have a sticky on my wall before I moved up to this office. I've moved up in the ranks. I used to be in the basement, and now I'm upstairs.
Blonde fire.
Yeah, it's some kind of sweet. I'm not sure which sweet this is, but anyway. And I used to have a sticky on my wall that says diversity prevents stupidity, because the more voices in the room and the more diverse they are, like, I don't assume that I know more than my kids in certain things, right? I would love it if they would appreciate the wisdom that I do provide, but you know, like diversity of even having, I had a great conversation. So one of my sons plays hockey out in Manitoba, middle of the country. And I had a great conversation with his billet father, and he's a great guy, super great. And we are politically on totally different spectrums. And most situations where you would end up having the conversation about, you know, I'm right, you're wrong. This is why I'm right. I'm going to dig in and I'm going to make you more wrong. It was a great conversation. Just we approached it with curiosity. So what is it about this that makes you feel that way? Like, why is this important to you? Getting curious and having those conversations, not even just politically, but I mean, across the board, when you're in a boardroom or when you're looking for an idea. Like, I would approach somebody that has a totally different side of, like, point of view, and get curious about it, because that's where my blind spots are. I don't know. I don't know what I don't know. And unless I get curious about it, I'm not going to learn it.
Yeah, that diversity is so important. You remind me of an experience I had years ago when I had my staffing firm, and we had a personality profile that we used in the hiring process that was extremely predictive of success. And I partnered with a local bank to profile all of their employees. And it was very interesting how in this one particular department, I mean, they were carbon copies of each other, and all of them a carbon copy of the hiring manager for that department. You know, that we tend to hire ourselves typically. And I love what you both said, you know, and that makes me think about that you're hiring or you're setting up teams that are diverse and wanting to have that diversity. We tend to get comfortable with people quicker if they're more like us. And oftentimes that's where the hiring decision gets made, instead of really looking at, you know, would someone of a different flavor bring more value to the department, to the overall operation.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, when you do that, when you get that diversity, now you have another opportunity for great collaboration, right? I think maybe, yeah.
And I think it's, you know, it tends to be disruptive, and that's a beautiful thing. And it seems so ridiculously negative. You say, you know, I'm intending to disrupt what we're doing. And it's to disrupt so that we can look at things differently, so that we can broaden ourselves and whatever it is that we're trying to achieve, because we're not all thinking in the same vertical and the same, you know, the infamous stay in your lane. Well, stay in your lane, be respectful, but broaden what you want to know, broaden what you think you can do, broaden what you want to do. And I think by doing that and bringing in that diversity, as well as just not the same way, you know, it's kind of one of the forbidden things of, okay, so why did you do it that way?
Yeah.
And you'd be, well, that's the way that and they would stop.
Always.
You know, like,
That's one of my biggest things. Like, tradition, if that's the only reason why you're doing it, it's one of the most ridiculous reasons to continue doing something. Figure out why you're doing it. Figure out if it still works for you, if it still serves your people, if there's a better way. I mean, just because we've always done it, I love that you just stopped short. It's just ridiculous. Then by all means, keep doing it that way. Don't learn anything. Don't provide anything new. Don't have any new experiences. You know, I'm a huge fan of the show Somebody Please Feed Phil. I don't know if it's a food show, and he goes around.
Great show.
And one of the things that he says is, open a mind by opening their mouth. because you can by trying the new foods and understanding the culture and understanding the difference and the similarities, it really is a new opportunity to try something completely different. And whether that's food or music or dance or business, whatever that is, I love the idea of just try it. You never know, just try it.
I think that this is actually a really great why people would want to hire. I had a great conversation with actually a lady in Wisconsin. She was talking about how, and she's an executive coach like me. And she's like, the best thing about it is I can walk into an organization and tell them their baby is ugly, right? Like you can walk, and I thought that was just a really funny way of putting it. But yeah, because we hold these things so treasured and so dear and don't realize that it's holding us back, or it's, not opening our mind to what the possibilities are, because we have always done it this way and this is the way that it is. And hiring out, getting a coach, getting a consultant, getting somebody that wants to come in and look in from a different point of view is another way of also inviting in more conversation. Because when you spend your time in your pond and it's the same people, it's going to get a little bit stagnant.
Very true. Very true.
We went in all kinds of directions that I didn't think I was expecting.
And that's what I love about this show is I have no idea where it's going to go. And we just go with the flow. Whatever it is, let's just go with the flow as long as we're bringing value and we're having a good time. Because I feel like, if you're going to do something, it ought to be fun. If you can't have fun while you're doing it, then I don't want to be involved. So yeah, I love that you each bring such unique perspectives, but with also that shared ideology of how important collaborating with others is. But yet you have your own experiences and perspectives to bring to the table, and it just opens up a whole new world for people as they get to listen to this. And I learn from every one of these sessions. Somebody always brings something that I hadn't thought about as being an example of collaboration.
I have a friend in Wisconsin as well, I have lots of friends in Wisconsin,
Right.
Who has a podcast. And it's called Blue Collar BS. And it's Brad Herda is his name. And he is basically, he's a coach for companies to help them introduce and welcome Gen Z as the next, like multi-generational companies for the blue collar companies. Because that's, the old boys club that happens doesn't necessarily know how to work with the Gen Z and below, I don't know the next gen after Z.
Yeah.
So whatever it is, but the different millennials and what different generations is the word I'm looking for, and welcoming them in. And it's funny because I see my husband who works in a blue collar industry, and he comes home and he's like, I don't know how to deal with it. I don't know how to deal with these kids. Like, it's like, this isn't just, and I'm like, wow, look at that. You should listen to the podcast. Which of course he loves to hear. So,
yeah. There is that element of us getting stuck in our ways. I think about my husband years ago. He had a philosophy of my way or the highway on a lot of things about work. And it was really interesting because this one particular week, 3 people in his life, his stepfather, or my stepfather, his father-in-law, myself, and his best friend who also worked at the same company, all sat him down and had a conversation with him without the others knowing about this my way or the highway thing. And he's like, okay.
It's an asynchronous intervention.
But we can get stuck in that, right? And that certainly is not conducive to collaboration or to learning from others. And so that being open and receptive is so important. And that, there is more than one way to do most things. Right?
Absolutely.
Teri,
sorry, go ahead, Kathleen.
Teri just touched on something that I think not only in the course of this last year, but even as I was, on the last couple years of being CEO, that curiosity, that's such a big word, and it's now a trending word, but I found it was like, I leaned into that of being more curious and asking more questions, when you are at that level of CEO or director or executive management, sometimes you lead by trying to say, this is what we should do and this is how it should be done. And, not even narrow-minded or the highway, my way or the highway, but sometimes leaders feel like they have to lead that way. Whereas I think that leaders can be so much better and so much better equipped if they ask questions, and then they can lead, right? They can lead better after they've asked the question. So that curiosity thing has been something that I have latched on tight to, because it takes you just kind of like where we have been now in these last 25 minutes. It takes you in all of these different avenues, and you have to watch the squirrel thing because you lose your focus. But oh wait, foul somehow. But I don't know. I've just found it to be a lovely way to not only hopefully consult in a good way, but also lead in a good way.
Absolutely.
I like that. I like being able to do that even with clients, regardless, you know what I mean? Because knowing how each one of us works with people and understands what drives us. There's this old school way of coaching where it's like, I have this box. And so when I'm going to bring you on to help you and solve all your problems, climb into this box. We're going to fold in the corners of your individuality and your uniqueness. And as long as you fit in here, then I can help you. But I think the more we ask questions and listen to the answers and create this custom experience for our clients, because there isn't one way to coach either. There's not one way to resolve whatever their challenges are. So by asking those questions, getting curious, and actually collaborating more with our clients. So it's literally, we're going to roll up our sleeves. We're going to kick off our shoes, because that's how I roll, and lock arms, and we're going to go do this together versus I'm going to stand over here and just tell you what to do. I think the results are so much better. I personally have way more fun that way than this is how I'm still learning. I still have coaches. I still have mentors. So I think collaborating too with our clients is a big part of that, for sure.
It is. And it's fun that it's changing, because I think leaders feel vulnerable if they ask questions, because if they're asking questions and maybe they aren't the leader and they don't have the answers, right? That is just so old school. That's just so, let that be a way of the past. Let that be in a history book, but not in where we are today. And vulnerable, not crying in front of your people necessarily every day. Shedding a tear in front of your people is not the worst thing, especially if there's a reason to shed a tear, right? During the pandemic, they saw a lot of me. I was strong, I was resilient, but there were times when, I didn't want to be that way, because that wasn't right. I mean, we were doing some really difficult, making ridiculously unthinkable decisions. And as the leader of making those decisions, I wanted to show that the real person, and that this was hard, but we were going to get through it, right? So to that point, it's just, letting that vulnerability shine through, but more so letting curiosity even advance further on that. I think it's just hopefully a way of where either leaders will be, or consultants can help the leaders be, or the coaches can help the leaders coached. So it's just, I feel it's happening.
I agree with you, Kathleen. And there are a lot of people who would say to me, why would you bring 3 other coaches onto this call? You're a coach. But it's that not thinking of lack and thinking of limitations, but what can we do together? How can we make a bigger impact? Somebody's going to relate to Kathleen more than they're going to relate to Regina. I mean, it's giving them opportunities and choices. So I've always embraced that idea of communicating with other coaches and letting them share their story on my platform.
I love it.
Thank you. It started off with my Facebook group, and I would bring people in and interview them in my Facebook group. And oftentimes they were other coaches.
You help each other better by being together.
Absolutely.
I have to say, I've had a very squiggly career path. And as I have been through different varied, industries, the coaching industry has been the most welcoming, the most collaborative, the most curious, the most kind, the most vulnerable. And I think that's what drew me to being a coach. When I was working in my previous career, I had a coach and I was like, okay, I don't want to do this. I want to do that. Like, I want to do everything. And that's how I ended up becoming a coach. So, and there's 7.8 billion people in the world. There's room for all of us.
There's room for all of us.
Right?
Especially in coaching.
And honestly, some business coaches, some of my favorite people to work with and collaborate with are business coaches. I don't do what they do. They don't do what I do. And if the intention is really to serve these people and create solutions together, it would be so, for me, off brand, but it would just be so wrong. Like, no. This is the option you have. Don't look at the man behind the curtain. It's just me. It just is. I think it's short-sighted and it doesn't actually serve, So I work with all kinds of coaches because they know stuff that I don't, and they can help my people the way that I can't.
Exactly. Yeah. Kathleen, were you going to add to that?
No, really just just really agreeing. And to your point, Teri, I mean, the fulfillment of coaching, there is nothing better than building people up, right? While they're being broken down. Because if we're coaching or we're consulting, and we've all lived in spaces of having been in seats, or I will speak to myself. Certainly I was being broken down in a lot of different ways, right? Things were coming at me in 472 directions. It was like, but how you can just get people to build up, have more confidence in themselves, right? Once we're centered, we always feel better about whatever it is we're doing, whatever we're saying, if we're centered. And if we're confident and we actually believe in what we're doing because we have some validation and we have that sounding board that says, if I do this, or if I think about something this way, is that just absolutely crazy? And when you can validate that it's maybe a little crazy, but it's not too crazy, and it's not going to hurt anybody, and no risk, no reward, and you know what? I think that's where you should go, or however the scenario plays out. But just to be able to have that, it just builds people to be better people. And I just think that there's just so much room and so much. Leaders are so young these days, and especially our residuals of the pandemic, right? Now they're coming in and they're getting thrown in because the 58-year-olds are all retiring, right? I'm far from done, but I'm done with that. And now you get people that are thrown into some of these throws because they didn't do a succession plan. They weren't prepared. And now I think we started that out, that now you have a manager that was a better salesperson is now managing a whole staff. And this is where the coaching world, has such opportunity, but we also, we need to put ourselves out there, but people need to lean in and say, yep, I need one. Yep, I could use somebody. And there's that vulnerability thing again. Like, some leaders don't want to think that they need someone, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people don't think they're therapists. There's nothing better than a therapist.
Have three, let them talk amongst themselves. Have several. I think part of it, especially in this world, is I look at collaboration like team. I may not have 20 people sitting here in my little office with me because I don't know that my dogs would allow that, but I know that I have at least 10 people who know the intimate details of my business, that if I'm not okay, I mean, I can't tell you how, over the last couple of years going, I can't be here today. I know I have people that I can call, say, can you step in and teach this for me? Can you step in and take care of this call for me? That collaboration is a whole nother level of team that there's no such thing in my world. I am not a solo entrepreneur anymore. I have team. And whether they're on my payroll or they're vendors or whatever that is, they're my people. And I know they've got my back. And there's nothing that helps build confidence more than I know when I stand up here and put myself completely out on the line, I've got a host of people going, yeah, we got you. We totally got you.
I love that definition of team and that and collaboration there. That's awesome. Yes, we should all be working in that direction, right? If we haven't already.
Well, there's something about staying in our own lane, right? Like if I have all the skills to do this one thing, why am I doing all these things, right? When somebody else, I used to have a house cleaner. I'm like, you are the bomb because she loves it and I hate it. And here, do the thing, right? And that reciprocation of helping people to I feel like whenever I hire somebody in, it's like because they love to do that. They love it way more than I need it, than I need the control over doing it. Right.
Yeah.
And that's, some people just don't want to give up control.
Yeah. Or they don't know how, they've never done it
They
before.
don't know how.
Or they did it once. Okay. Totally not projecting at all. Thought I was delegating, but I really was relegating. And that project went sideways very quickly because I just was like, oh, I know, I'll have you do it. And I'll just walk away. Well, that's not awesome either. So that's why I say sometimes we don't know what we don't know until we learn the hard way and go, okay, well, let's not do it that way again.
And that also
I will lose the control.
That also comes down to leadership skills.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
If what you're really good at is marketing, what kind of a leader, to be a leader requires a skill set that not everybody has. And when thinking about Kathleen, what she was saying about the younger generation coming up, right? They're still in the, crabs in a bucket trying to get to the top, clambering stage. And we have, as seasoned people, been through there, been there, done that. And now we're able to speak to, what do you value? What's important to you? Like, where do you really want to be in 10 years? Like, I'm at the point where in 10 years, I want to be able to get down on my knees and play with my grandbabies in 10 years. That's what I want. So right now I'm focusing on making sure that I'm fit enough that I don't need a knee replacement in 10 years. Like, you know what I mean? But remembering where I was and looking back to where I was when I was in banking and when I was in financial plan, like all of that kind of, that I worked my way through, like I said, various different careers. And we were like crabs trying to clamber to the top of the bucket. Pick me, pick me, pick me. And it didn't matter if we were like elbowing the people on the way up. And then you'd get there and you're like, now what? Now I don't know. I have to learn from someone. And I think mentorship, like I love what you're doing, Kathleen. I love it because as women are coming up through the ranks, not only are they dealing with the old boys club, they're dealing with the competition around them and being able to step into that power and stepping into who they are and what they stand for. And that, take me seriously. Why would you not take me seriously? Why not? Right. And I just love that you're coming alongside that. That's just so powerful.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a lot to be said for a voice at the table, but using your voice wisely. Right? Not speaking just to speak, not speaking just to be heard, speaking when you know what you're speaking about and being heard because you've said either something profound, something that's the right where it should be and how it should be, and getting people to really accept that and respect it, right? It's all about respect. I think that in all of our lives, personally and professionally, there's trust and respect, and it's earned. So it's how do you get that? How do you earn that? How do you gain it? I guess too is another way to go about it. So
I think to your point, Kathleen, there's definitely, for me, there's a huge difference between get loud, put yourself out there and post 37 times a day. If you're not connecting, if there's not a reason for it, it's wasted time. So usually my version of that is get loud with purpose. It's not about staying quiet because you don't think you have something valuable to say, but make sure, even if it's not profound, it's something you're passionate about, something you believe in. It's not just, I need to hear myself talk, or I haven't spoken in 37 minutes, or, on Zoom calls, there's a thing, I think it's Zoom. There's a thing that'll count how long everybody's spoken. Like in an hour call, it will measure how much participation, who got to speak when. And in most of those coaching calls, I'm like, if you have spoken more than I have, then it's a good call. Because I need to be listening more, right? It's that collaborative conversation again. But I think that if there's a purpose for it, if there's a reason for it, other than it's my turn, so I need to think of something to say, but speak when it matters to you, speak when you're passionate about it, get loud with purpose. It's a different concept.
Add to the conversation. Go ahead, Kathleen.
Yeah.
No, it's fabulous. I mean, that's exactly, it's a great point.
And I just wanted to add, if you're at a table and you don't have anything of purpose to say, that's a great time to ask questions. Instead of sitting and hiding and not saying anything, that's when you can ask a question and it may change the whole course of everything, right?
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to, if you don't know exactly how you're going to add value, ask questions, get curious, and be that voice of diversity at the table.
I love that. That's adding in and of itself. Because again, it's that I hadn't thought about that way. What do you mean? I mean, I usually tell people, if you're not sure what you do for a living, tell your mother. Go explain to your mother what you do. Most people's mothers don't know. Because, it's just that missing. And it's that kind of like it's the echo chamber again. We think everybody knows. And so we just kind of go through the motions. But if you're at that table and Teri getting curious and asking questions, that is adding value. It's making them go, oh, yeah, I should explain that better. I just assumed everybody knew. Let me talk about that for a minute. I think that in itself is valuable.
Just had that. That's so funny. I just had a conversation with my mom and I was telling her about a big win that I just had. She's like, oh, so is that through that duck thing that you do? Oh my God, mother. Oh my God.
It's a great test.
One word. Pick the one word and you remember it. It's funny. I was looking at my Google Analytics, right? How do people find you on your website? I get a lot of duck coach.
I love it.
Well, they remember something about ducks and they know that I'm a
good
coach.
branding.
That's how they're
Teri, it's good branding.
It is. I love the name of your company, Teri. I thought that was quite clever.
I love the foul language.
I know. I will never forget that. I'm gonna have to
foul language coach.
Yeah.
You might get Gary Vaynerchuk in that.
I've just had a conversation recently with my grandson about foul language. He's 12 and a half. And so I'm going to have to find a fun way to share that with him. Oh my goodness, ladies, what great value you've all brought to the table today. And thinking of collaboration in ways that, I mean, every time we do this, there's some new way that we discuss collaboration that I hadn't thought of before. And you ladies have done that again for me. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here today and all of your wisdom and insight and just the great work that you're doing in the world. Thank you so much. Again, Amber, thank you for bringing them. Teri?
This is my life. I love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
I'm curious, Regina.
Regina.
Oh my God, I totally.
It's all right. It's all right.
We have a city named Regina. So
I know. I have a good friend in that city, and she struggles to say Regina.
Regina. Okay, so sorry. The Canadian apologizes yet again. I'm so sorry. But I'm curious, when you were talking about the assessment that you do with people, which one is it?
Oh, the personality assessment was the Rembrandt portrait. It's by Rembrandt Advantage. Dr. Michael Santo created it. It is over 90% predictive of success on the job, but it's also a really good tool to use in relationships as well. And so when I had my staffing firm, we didn't make any internal hires without it, and most of our external hires were made with it as well. And it evaluates 13 innate personality characteristics, and from those 13 scales, it can evaluate over 50 performance factors. So when they understand what the position requires, they can tell you if that person has the innate ability to be successful in it and where the hiccups will be. And it was always fun because I would, lay it out to an employer. This is the prospective candidate, but here's what you're going to see. Because the first 90 days that someone's on the payroll, you really don't see who they are, right? It's after that they start to loosen up a bit and you see who they are. So they would know going in who that person was. And they would come back to me 90 days later and say, yep, you were right. But the key was they were able to determine if that was something they wanted to take on or not, and if it was something they could work around in their organization. So we could fit them to the job, we could fit them to the supervisor, we could fit them to the corporate culture. And so it was really a powerful tool for us.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I think that now, especially with so many people struggling to hire, right? People are basically like, can you write? Can you literally hold a pen?
Yeah.
Right. Or, would you be able to? Right. And I think that, going into a hiring with that, I mean, I've played with many different assessments in my career of doing things, but I hadn't heard of that one before. But one thing about the boxes we put people into, there's always a box of people that don't want to be put in a box. and don't believe in boxes. That's
Right.
literally part of the boxes. So, that there's that one box that is like, nah, nah, right? And, but it's funny when you're hiring people, looking at somebody by the box. So for example, let's say you have an accounting firm and all the people are, data magicians. That's not a bad thing, but there's different layers to it. And adding in the different types of personalities into a team.
Yes.
I did an exercise once as part of this program I did called the Purpose Project, where they had us solving world problems and put one of each of the different types of people in that to see how we would solve this particular problem.
Nice.
And it was super interesting experience. And that one there, we were basically 4 different boxes. So there was the power people, the perfection people, the party people, and the people.
Right.
So that's the Jungian thing, the disc type of idea.
Sure.
And then you put one in each one. And then to see, that the super creative person is the one going, well, what about this? And what about this? And the other one's like, well, we'd have to look at the data for that. And we'd have to see. And then it's like, well, you know what? We got to finish this thing. And what are we going to get done? And well, where are the people involved? Like, how are we going to make sure that everybody's happy? And so you have all the different people, you put that together, you can solve a world problem pretty quickly if everybody's open and curious and accepting of all the other boxes. So it's super interesting. I love that stuff. Like I geek out significantly about that stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm have to look at this
I will get you some contact information, Teri.
Beautiful. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a tool that I still firmly believe in. I used it for 12 and a half years in that business. I've used it in other businesses where I've been hiring. Our biggest client in the staffing industry, we had 6 offices. Our biggest client was a staffing firm of 200 offices around the nation that they didn't hire anybody internally without utilizing that tool through us. So it was a very, very powerful tool.
Regina, what was it? Rembrandt? What was it?
Rembrandt, like the portrait. Yes, Rembrandt portrait. And the company site, though, is RembrandtAdvantage.com. Yeah.
Well, they should be happy that you're giving them all this love. But it was also just
Michael and I remain friends still today. We remain friends.
It was amazing to watch you shine. I mean, you just got into your sweet spot when you talked about that. I was so fabulous to be like, and this and this and this. So passion, right? Passion is purpose.
Passion, absolutely. Oh, goodness.
Rembrandt up.
Well, ladies, I hate to say it, but we are just about out of time. We have had such a wonderful conversation. I've enjoyed this tremendously. Amber, I would like to turn it over to you to do our kind of closing round, if you would, of having folks share, their final thoughts and their contact info. Would you do that?
I would love to.
Thank
Let's
you.
stay the same order. Kathleen O'Leary, share the best way for us to contact you. Is there one last 30-second thing that you'd like to share with the world?
Oh, my lasting thing is live every day because it is truly a gift. I speak that as a widow, and I have cancer survivor here, Teri, with us. And every day is a gift. Live it with purpose, live it with intent, live it with kindness, and never think that your dream is too big to follow or to chase, but just be your person. So that's how I would say it, and that's how I live my life, and that's how I would love to just, get people to feel that way. So, or at least just like to think that they can live that way. And the best way to get a hold of me is my email, which is Kathleen at KO'Leary.com. Or I am on LinkedIn under Kathleen O'Leary.
We'll come check you out on LinkedIn. Thank you so much for being here. It's nice to hear you talk again. Teri, the Unstuck Duck. Get stuck in the mud.
Yes, I can help you get stuck in the mud. So she used all my words. Like
I know.
Yeah. So my business, like my website is unstuckduck.ca. .com will take you there as well, but unstuckduck.ca. And I'm all about living life with purpose, on purpose. I just, life is too short to be stuck in the muck. And, we have people that can help you with that. Literally all of us here. And so I think I don't have anything else. Add me on LinkedIn.
I think your sentence was absolutely beautiful. Living
Live
on
life
purpose with
on purpose. Yeah.
I
And
love that.
yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of creating the experience that you want in the world, and, you know, to not use another duck reference. You know, people go through life bobbing like a cork in the ocean. Sometimes you need to paddle.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
I love it. Thank you both so much for being here. It's just been so fun. I knew you would add. I knew it would be amazing. I didn't know how amazing, but oh my goodness, thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate that.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much for having us.
And Amber, your parting thoughts and your contact info.
Oh, let's see, contact info. Find me on LinkedIn. It's under Your Brand by Design. My parting thoughts: get loud with purpose, and don't worry so much if they think like you. Hire, collaborate, be open to being wrong at least once a day. There you have it.
Love it. I love it. Oh, ladies, this has been a joy. It truly has. I've enjoyed every moment of this and learned from your wisdom, and wish you all the best as you move forward. So we'll just wrap up then, folks, and say we hope you'll join us again next time. I hope you enjoyed this, and you'll join us again next time here on Collaboration Conversations, where we explore all avenues of how to collaborate effectively in the world. Bye for now.